So as you think back on, you just had your 70th birthday, you've announced at some point in the next year and a half, retiring. What, what, what convictions, what truths that you started out with have just become even more clearer, more vibrant? You know, I had one older minister tell me one time there were some things that looked black and white, and at the end of his ministry, they looked gray, and there were other things that looked gray and now seem black and white. What would you put in those categories? Anything that's become even more convinced of, and on the other side, any things you've changed your mind on?
Yes, without sounding, too strong about it. I think that most conservative, reformed preachers begin with their feet on the legalistic side.
Mm.
I've just read the book of yours that's just about to be published, and you asked me to puff it.
Yes,
and
thank you.
And your first chapter was on First John, and very well written. But I tell students on a fairly frequent basis, don't preach on First John in the first 15 years of your ministry, because you're going to sound like a legalist.
Right.
And for me, understanding the shape of the gospel is more important. And it sounds strange to say this, but it's more important to me now than it was 50 years ago. To be able to preach First John and not sound like a legalist. And you can't do that unless the gospel is firmly set before you. You know, that at every point you're saying, nothing in my hands I bring, simply to thy cross I cling. And it's in my head because I'm in Colossians, and I've just preached a couple of sermons on legalism at the end of Colossians chapter 2. And it touched a nerve in a lot of people in the congregation, for sure. I am more convinced now than I was 50 years ago of the inerrancy of Scripture.
Hear, hear.
And that without a firm commitment to the inerrancy of Scripture, there is no future. It is a slippery slide to oblivion. And so in our woke culture, in the pressures that are on the modern church that weren't on the church that I entered 50 years ago, of gender and LGBTQ stuff and all of that the only answer to that is the inerrancy of Scripture. And if you let go of that doctrine, the church is finished. One generation, 2 generations, it'll be gone.